Hi. So in this lecture, we are going to learn about chat models. So how we can use chat models to communicate through the large language models. And we are going to also look into what are message objects. For this, I'm going to take you to my screen and show you a small presentation. You must have used ChatGPT. ChatGPT is essentially a web-based platform, or there's a Android mobile application as well as iOS application. So basically, it's a platform where you can talk to your artificial intelligence, especially the large language models provided by OpenAI. So the way ChatGPT works, so it is running a large language model behind the scenes. So you send a text as input to it, and in return, you receive a text as output. And in a very similar fashion, we can use LangChain library, which has a class called chat models, which help us communicate through the large language models. Now, these large language models we communicate through can be of OpenAI, or they can be of other large language model providers such as Mistral AI or Anthropic, or there are many others. So what LangChain library basically does is that it provides us with chat models which help us communicate with different large language models provided by different large language model providers. Now, before we go further with chat models, I want to introduce you to one more important topic, that is message objects. All chat models in LangChain work with message objects. So there are basically three message objects. One is called system message. Then you have human message, which is also called user message. And then you have the AI message. System message basically assigns some kind of a role to your large language model, and it provides some boundaries or instructions to how the conversation should go on. Then you have human message, which is basically the input that you give to the large language model. So anything you write or talk to on ChatGPT or in general with the large language model, any input that you give is basically human or a user message. And finally is the AI message, which is the output that you get from the large language model or response from the artificial intelligence to you is called AI message. To understand this further properly, I'm going to show you one example. I'm going to take you to this page, openai.com. And of course, you need to have an account with them. If not, just sign up. And when you go to the products, go to the API login. And here, there's an option of playground. I'm going to switch over to this. And within this playground, you have an option of system message here. Now let's take an example. Let's assign a role to our large language model. Let's say that our large language model should act like a travel agent, and it operates in a certain area or region, and we want help of that large language model to create an itinerary for us. So what I'm gonna do, this is gonna be my system prompt or system message that I'm going to give to the my large language model. And the model I'm using is GPT-4o mini. So I'm going to switch to GPT-4o mini here. And there's some other settings that you can change, but we will talk about it later. So in the system message, I'm saying you're a travel agent. You operate in North America and Europe only. Help in best possible way, but say sorry and no to anyone who asks for help outside the area you operate. So I am basically assigning a role to my large language model. I am giving it instructions and boundaries on which the rest of the conversation should go on. So this is my system message. Now let's move to the human message or the user message. Here I can say, so this is my human message where I'm saying plan a 3-day trip to Chicago. So this is gonna be my input to the large language model. And what I got under the name of assistant is something called AI message. So basically the output that I'm receiving from the large language model. And it basically created me a itinerary for a 3-day trip to Chicago. That's how it is. Let's provide it another human message or the user input here. And I'm going to say, plan a 3-day trip to Tokyo. Now, Tokyo is a city in Japan, which is in Asia and doesn't come under North America or Europe. That is where the travel agent operates. And so, according to the instructions by the system message, say sorry and no to anyone who asks for help outside the area you operate. So, let's see what is the response I'm going to get from the large language model. So, this is my second human message or the user input. And here we got the response as an assistant, which is my AI message again, the second AI message that I'm going to receive. It says, I'm sorry, but I can only assist with travel within North America and Europe. So basically, it follows my system instructions or the system boundaries that I provided. I hope it's clear to you what is the difference between a system message, a human message, and what is an AI message. And now in the next lecture, we are going to see a practical implementation of chat models. Thank you. Let's get started with chat models. In this lecture, we are going to go to Google Colab. We are going to install LangChain library in it. And with the LangChain library, we are going to interact with two different large language model providers. One is OpenAI and second is Mistral AI. Once you know how to interact with these two, you can use any other large language model provider with LangChain to interact with their large language models. Also, we're going to see how we can interact with these large language models and get a response which is non-streaming and another kind of response which is in streaming mode. And we are going to discuss further about it. For now, I'm going to take you to my screen. Now I'm here at collab.google, so you can go there and you need a basic Google account with it in order to use it. I'm going to start by creating a new notebook. I'm going to rename this. And now I'm going to give a basic structure to this new notebook. As you can see, I have given a basic structure to this new notebook. I have added some headings and subheadings into it so that it's clear what we are going to do. I also added some empty code cells. Now let's get started with OpenAI. I'm going to close the Mistral AI and the other responses. And the first thing I'm going to do is install the library LangChain OpenAI. Let's get started with this. Once it is installed, I am going to degrade the version of HTTPX. Now this is an exception. So at the time of recording, the current version of LangChain is not compatible with the latest version of HTTPX, which is used behind the scenes, which is one of the dependencies. So I'm going to degrade it so that it becomes compatible with my current version of LangChain. Now this step might be optional for you, but it's necessary at the time of recording to degrade the version to 0.27 instead of 0.28. And you can see here, I have successfully degraded the version of HTTPX. The next we need to do is have an OpenAI API key and set it within my notebook as an environment variable. So environment variable name is OpenAI API key. And the only thing is that the API keys are the secret. So it's very important that you're not publicly making it public and you're not committing it on the GitHub or anything like that, which is going to compromise it. So that's why we are going to use get pass for it. So every time I run the cell, it's going to open an input for me and I need to enter the OpenAI API key here. Since we don't have an OpenAI API key yet, we are going to make it. So we are going to go to openai.com. You need to create an account with them. I already have an account with them and I'm already logged in. So in the product section, you go to API login and you go to dashboard. And at the end, you have the API keys. I'm going to start by creating a new secret key. It's optional, you can give it a name. I'm just going to call it LangChain tutorial. And I'm going to give it all the permissions for now. Once you have the key, I will suggest you keep it safe somewhere. Your original notebook and you paste the key, got accepted. Then you are going to import chat OpenAI class from LangChain OpenAI library that you installed just here. And once you have it, you are going to give it an argument with the model name of GPT-4o mini. Well, you can play with it and you can use GPT-4o or GPT 3.5 turbo, but I'm going to stick with GPT-4o mini for now. That's done also. So we have defined a variable name model which contains a chat OpenAI object and which works with the model GPT-4o mini. And once you have defined the model variable, we are going to skip the Mistral AI part because uh, you use one of the two. Either you use selecting language models, you either select OpenAI or you select Mistral AI. And in this case, we are first going to go with OpenAI and we have defined the model. Now I'm going to go to querying the large language model. So how to have a conversation with a large language model. And within that, I have normal and streaming. I'm going to go with the normal response first, and I will tell you the difference between the two soon. And that's the code for this. So here I'm going to import two classes. One is the human message and other is the system message from the LangChain code library. I'm going to have a messages array which has system message as well as human message. In system message, we are saying you are a travel agent, you operate in North America and Europe only, help in best possible way, but say sorry and no to anyone who asks for help outside the area you operate. So basically giving some instructions and assigning some kind of a role to your large language model. That's what we are doing in the system message. And then we have a human message where we are saying plan a 3-day trip to Chicago. That's our human message. And then eventually we have a response where we are using the model.invoke function. So model is something that we defined with chat OpenAI object, and we are invoking it, and as an argument we are passing the messages array here. And once we get a response, we are going to print that response. Let's see how it works. Okay, we have the response here generated by GPT-4o mini, and that's something called AI message. So you got human message, system message, and the AI message here. Now, one thing you might have observed that once I run the cell, the large language model we are using, it taking some time to generate the response. And when it's generating the response, we are just waiting. And once the whole response is being generated, it sends all the response together to us and then shows up here. So if you haven't observed it, see it again. I run it and I wait for the response while the response is being generated by the large language model. There's another way, a more intuitive way we can interact with the large language model where the large language model is still processing the response. And even when it's processing the response, it has generated the first few lines or the first few words. It starts sending us the words that it has already generated. So instead of having a long latency or wait time for the large language model to respond, we start getting that response. Let's see how can we do that. So I'm going to use the same human message, system message, and the messages array. Something that has changed is how I'm going to invoke the model. Initially, we were doing model.invoke when we are getting the normal response, but now we are going to do model.stream, and as an argument, we are going to pass again the messages array. And when we do model.stream, instead of getting a single text response as an AI message, we get some tokens of responses. So we get a stream of tokens as the large language model is still processing the response behind the scenes. And what we're doing is basically iterating through all those tokens with the help of the for loop and eventually printing it. So let's see how it works. You see, there was very low latency and it started generating the response while the large language model is still processing the responses behind the scenes. So I'm gonna do it once again for you. And if you haven't seen before, see, it almost started instantly and started generating response even when the large language model is still processing the next words. So that's great. So till now you saw how we can interact with OpenAI and different large language models in it, and then how to create a normal as well as a streaming response. What if we want to use some other large language model providers such as Mistral AI? Now we are going to go to that. So this is the OpenAI, and we install LangChain OpenAI, which is dedicated library to the OpenAI large language model provider. But if you want to use Mistral AI, we will have similarly a different library, which is only dedicated to Mistral AI LangChain library. Now we are going to go to that, and we are going to replace the model variable with the object with Mistral AI. Let's see how it works. I'm going to close the OpenAI for now. And within the Mistral AI, I'm going to install the LangChain Mistral AI library, which is dedicated to Mistral AI based large language models only. Again, same thing. We are going to degrade the version of HTTPX just to make sure it is compatible with the new LangChain library that we installed for Mistral AI. Perfect. And now, very similar to OpenAI, we need the Mistral AI API key to interact with the large language models provided by Mistral AI. And for that, we need to create the key. I already have an account with Mistral AI. If you don't have an account, you need to first sign up and then log in. So I'm already logged in, and if you see on the left, you will find the API keys section. Optionally, I can give it a name. Optionally, you can also provide an expiration date. So I'm going to do it for tomorrow. Once you have it, you can copy the key and keep it somewhere safe. Now come back to the notebook. And once you have the key, you are going to import Chat Mistral AI class from LangChain Mistral AI library that we installed here. And we are going to provide the model name. And for this, I'm going to say Mr. Large latest. So the latest version they have with the Mistral Large, the Mistral AI's large language model. I'm going to use that. And now the model variable has been replaced by chat Mistral AI object instead of chat OpenAI object. So we basically override that because initially we executed um, chat OpenAI. Now we have later on executed Mistral AI, chat Mistral AI base cell. So it basically model variable has been replaced by chat Mistral AI. And if I'm going to generate a response right now, it's going to interact with the large language model by Mistral AI instead of OpenAI. Okay, perfect. The response has been generated by the Mistral AI now, and you can see it. And in a very similar fashion, we can create a streaming response as well. Again, since we are using model.stream, we are going to use Mistral AI this time again. So perfect. So this is the end of this tutorial. So in this lecture, we saw how we can interact with different large language models by different large language model providers and how we can generate a normal as well as a streaming response through it. Thank you. Now, very early in this project itself, I want to introduce you to a tool given by LangChain in order to trace and monitor your large language model calls. Now, it helps you evaluate different metrics within your different large language models and how they are performing. We can go very deep into it, but we will do it sometime later. But right now, I just want to give you an introduction to that tool, and that tool is called LangSmith. Now, going back to the same notebook where we were using chat models, I'm going to take you here. And here on the top, I'm going to add environment setup. And we just need 4 different environment variables that needs to be set up, which will connect us to the LangSmith. And the 2 of the environment variables are fixed. So that's why they are hard coded. The first is the LangChain endpoint, and second is the LangChain tracing version 2. That's true. So both are going to be fixed. Then you have the LangChain API key, and we are going to generate it just in a second. But you need to see the fourth variable, which is the LangChain project. And here I have given a name to my project. It's called LangChain tutorial for me, but feel free to give any name that you want. And this name is important in the way that when you go to the LangSmith's dashboard, you will see that a project will be created, and that project name will be same as this name that you give in the LangChain project. So that's why this name is important. And for now, before doing anything, I would recommend that you go to the runtime and restart the session if you are still using the same old notebook that I'm using, right? And once we have restarted the session, now we will run the environment setup. And now it's asking me to give LangChain API key. And for the LangChain API key, we need to go to the LangSmith by LangChain, sign up. Now you go to the settings and you go to the API keys. And within the API keys, I have some old API key existing, but I can create a new one with a personal access token. I'm going to copy it, paste the key. Once accepted, I'm going to go with Mistral AI this time. I'm going to decreate HTTPX version. I will refill the Mistral AI API key. Define the model variable. And I will start by generating a normal response. And when this is being executed, I will go to the LangSmith dashboard and I will press back. And you see there's a LangChain tutorial and it has the same name that you defined in the environment variable called LangChain project, which is LangChain tutorial. And you see that when I executed the normal response, it got executed and I got the AI message right here. And if you go to the LangSmith and you go through the LangChain tutorial project, you see chat Mistral AI. It's just the code that we executed, and you can see the latency for it here and some other metrics right down here, that how many tokens have been used, what is the error rate, streaming, and other details. Now same thing, going back, I can close Mistral AI and do something with the OpenAI. And we have overwritten the model variable with chat OpenAI object. And this time I'm going to do the streaming response. And as soon as the response is being generated, I will come to the LangSmith and you see that chat OpenAI model has been executed. And once I open this, I will be able to see all the metrics as well as the system message that we entered, the human message that we entered, and the AI message that we received. So that was LangSmith, very easy to set up. Just set up the four different environment variables and you will be able to trace your large language model calls. Thank you. Hi. So in this lecture, we are going to talk about prompt templates, understand what are prompt templates and why do we even need to use them. Now, for the prompt templates, are basically reusable components designed to structure and standardize prompts for large language models. They help you define a consistent format or interacting with large language models by filling placeholders with dynamic data, making your prompts more flexible and maintainable. Let's take the example we have been using for chat models. So we have a prompt here. There's a system prompt as well as a user or human prompt where we're saying you are a travel agent, you operate in North America and Europe only. And then you have other instructions. And also you are saying in the human prompt, plan a 3-day trip to Chicago. Now, we want to standardize this prompt, and I want some values here to be dynamic, and I want to use this prompt again and again um, but with different values. For example, I don't want to plan a 3-day trip to Chicago. Maybe I want to plan a 5-day trip to Chicago. Maybe I don't even want to go to Chicago. Maybe I want a 5-day trip to Berlin or maybe Tokyo, maybe something else. And also, for the travel agent, I don't always want it to operate in North America and Europe only. I want it to operate in the South America or maybe in Asia, maybe in Australia. I want to make a few things variable here. We use prompt templates and for that reason. And so basically the prompts remains the same, but there are some values which are hard coded. We are going to remove that and we are going to add a dynamic variable there. So I have added 3 dynamic variables in both system and the human prompt. Region, days, and city are 3 dynamic variables. I'm going to explain to you what is a workflow for a prompt template once the prompt templates are created. So here I have written some short form. So SM basically means a system message. HM basically means the human message. And I'm not writing the complete system message because of the lack of space here, but I am adding the line operate in with the variable region only. And with the human message, I have a plan a number of days variable, days trip to the city variable. Now, once we have the prompt template, the next thing we are going to do is we are going to invoke this prompt template to create a prompt out of it. We are going to invoke this prompt, and when we are invoking a prompt template, we will get an output as a prompt, but we also need to assign the values to these variables that we want to use in this particular prompt. So in this example, I'm invoking a prompt template and providing it a dictionary in Python, and I'm assigning values to region as Europe, days as 5, and city as Berlin. And it will look something like this. The system message will say operate in Europe only because we mentioned region as Europe, and the human message will be plan a 5-day trip to Berlin. Once we have the prompt is good enough to be passed as an argument when we are invoking a model. So once we have the prompt, so model is basically any large language model that you might have defined. It can be your OpenAI's large language model such as GPT-4o Mini, or you can use other large language model providers such as Anthropic or Mistral AI. And we can invoke that model passing the prompt that we have generated from the prompt template. And in return, we are going to receive the response from the large language model as an AI message. So AM here represents the AI message, and the response we are gonna go will be something like, here is the 5-day itinerary for Berlin, and it will go on. So that's the kind of response we're gonna get. So I just wanted to explain to you the workflow. What's the idea behind prompt template? So template basically standardize the prompt with some dynamic variables, and we can invoke it to generate a prompt and adding values to those dynamic variables, and basically put this prompt into the model to get a response from the large language model. Now, this is one example, but you can make different variation of prompts from this prompt template. You can assign different values to the region. So maybe you can say a travel agent which operate in Asia only, and plan a 20-day trip to Tokyo maybe. And that's how you can vary and create different prompts. And from each prompt, you can invoke and get a response from the large language model. I hope it's clear to you now that what is the use of prompt templates and what's the workflow behind it. In the next lecture, we are going to see how we can practically implement prompt templates. Thank you. Hi, in this lecture, we are going to see how to use prompt templates. So we are going to create a prompt template from initially used prompts that we had. We are going to change some of the values in it into dynamic variables. Then we are going to generate prompts by assigning those variables some values. And then we are going to use those prompts with the model to invoke and communicate with our large language model. Let's get back to the notebook. I'm going to use the same notebook that we were using before. So I have LangSmith set up. I have OpenAI and Mistral AI. For this example, I'm going to use Mistral AI, and I have the normal and the streaming responses. Now I have a prompt template mentioned here. And the first thing I'm going to use I'm going to import a chat prompt template from LangChain core library. And then I'm going to define two variables here. One is system template, which is same as a system prompt. And then I have a user template. Now user template is same as human message or human prompt that we defined earlier. If you see in the normal response, this is the human prompt that we had. I'm using the same thing here. The terminology has changed a little bit just because of the LangChain library, the way it is. And the user template or user prompt or human message all are same. And I'm using user template and system template, and then we define a variable called prompt template, which is gonna take chat prompt template object, which is going to generate that, and we are going to pass an array where we have two tuples. One is for system, containing the system prompt, and then the user, which is containing the user prompt. And that's how you define a prompt template. Now we are going to generate a prompt out of this prompt template. Now we are going to replace a few values and going to make them dynamic. So I don't want to hard code the area in which a travel agent operates. So the North America and Europe only, I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to replace it with a variable which is called region. And in the user template, I'm going to remove 3, which is a hard-coded value, and going to assign a variable named days. And going here, I'm going to remove Spain, and I'm going to assign a value called city. So once you do that, basically in the system message and the user message, you have made a few values dynamic, so city, days, and region. And then we are defining prompt template from chat prompt template class, and there we are assigning an array. In array we have two tuples. One is the system prompt, other is the user prompt. And I'm going to run this right now. So prompt template variable contains our prompt template. Now next what we are going to do is we are going to generate a prompt with the help of this prompt template and assigning values to days, city, and region. So we are going to call the prompt template variable that we defined here, and we are going to invoke with the help of a dictionary as an argument. And within the dictionary, we have key value pairs, which is basically the values for these variables that we defined in the template itself. Now this is gonna return us a value which we are saving into the variable prompt, and the prompt will generate pretty much the same structure of messages that we had in the normal response before, where we have a system message and a human message. So I'm gonna run this, and I have printed the prompt variable, and if you see that it has a messages variable which contains an array which has a system message which is saying you're a travel agent and you operate in Europe only, and then the rest of the content. And then you have a human message here which says content, plan a 5-day trip to Berlin. So this Berlin, and the Europe, all three are coming from the dictionary when we are invoking the prompt template and generating a prompt out of it. So basically we defined a prompt template with some dynamic values and variables, and then we created a prompt out of it. Now we are going to use this prompt to invoke the model and generate a response. So here I am invoking the model. I'm just doing it in the normal mode, but you can also do it in the same way we did in the streaming mode as well. So here we are doing model.invoke, and as an argument I'm passing the prompt, and let's see what response do I get. So here we go. We got a response from the Mistral AI, and it created an itinerary for us, and it works just fine. Well, this is the end of our video. I hope you were able to understand how you can communicate through different large language models through the LangChain library, how you can create response and a streaming response, how you can trace those calls through LangSmith, as well as how you can create prompt templates, and from those prompt templates create prompts and eventually call the large language models. Well, if I have been able to create value to you through this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.